told you.
So yes, I am recording a track preview for the Mexico Grand Prix. I know you guys liked the other one that I did for Circuit of the Americas, and I was like, you know what? Why not? But that at it will be a double upload today, and I still will be doing the upgrades video that all of you love. Don't you worry, it will be at a little bit of a later time because of Mexico, but in the meantime, we can talk about my predictions and an actual track preview and what we should expect coming here. We'll talk about the top teams, worst teams, as I said, the best drives that I think will happen, but also the track itself. So let's get straight into the Grand Prix. So this track itself is a very odd one. I would probably say it's the biggest outlier on our real calendar this year, and probably since it's been a track on the F1 calendar. It actually has the highest elevation of any track that we go to at 2,285 meters. Now, to give you context, this is 5 times the height of the actual towers that are in Kuala Lumpur. Yep, these towers, these twin towers that are actually owned by Petronas. Yep, the team that is on the side of the Mercedes car and has been their real top sponsor for a very long time. Just think about how high that actually is. So what does that mean? I mean, first of all, it means that downforce here is super tricky to come by because the air is so thin. So every team runs Monaco and Singapore specs here. Can you believe that? On a track with this long of a straight, a lot of cars run a super high downforce setup. That's the only way that you can actually get around certain things on this track. Now let's talk about the sectors. Sector 1, as you see, is a huge straight. And actually, this straight itself has resulted in some of the top speeds ever in Formula 1. And both the top speeds are held by Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas, in general, has the highest speed at 378 kilometers in Baku, but in race at 372, he has it here in Mexico. And I will play a clip of Valtteri hitting that in a Williams, believe it or not. I say believe it or not, but Williams is always one of the strongest cars when it comes to straights. Anyways, last year we saw big top speeds, but not to that level. It should be better this year because aero efficiency is turned up to what it used to be. Now, Sector 2 is the swiggly part that you need the downforce for. A lot of overtaking does not happen here. It does not happen in Sector 2 at all because it is super hard getting around really turn 7 to 11 with keeping your car on track. A lot of actual drivers make mistakes going there because it's so tricky with downforce being so inefficient, as I would say. It makes it hard for the drivers to actually perform well there. In Sector 3, this is probably the spectacle of Mexico. This is what really you look at and you're like, oh, I would love to see this, seeing these Formula 1 cars so close. But quite in fact, it is the most boring part of the track. I will tell you that. It is the slowest part by far because they have this stadium section that no other Formula 1 Grand Prix track has. It does make for an insane watch of these cars. You're so close hearing those sounds. I mean, I would love to go to Mexico just to watch from this part, but no overtaking here. It's very hard and they're very slow speeds. And I'm talking Monaco slow speeds here, but that's what ends up getting you back into Sector 1. So let's talk about the overtaking zones. Overtaking zones are turn 1, but also turn 4 because the actual DRS has only one activation, which I disagree with. I do not like that, but one activation from Sector 1 all the way down to turn 4, so we will see overtakes into turn 4. And sometimes drivers do set up an overtake into turn 6, but these are your main overtaking zones. Other spots on the track aren't very accessible for it. Sometimes we'll see an overtake in 12 or 13. It's very rare, but it will happen. But that's really about it. That's it for the overtaking zones and our DRS zones. What are we looking at for the tire strategy going here? So it is very important that you're actually good on your tires here. So teams like Mercedes, Red Bull, Aston Martin, teams like that will actually thrive here. Last year, teams literally only ran a medium and a soft. But the tires were a little bit harder. They're softer this year. So I think the same strategy might be ran, but I don't think we're going to see those insane lap times by Max Verstappen. I'm actually going to pull up what this guy was tracking for like 40 laps straight on softs. It was absolutely ridiculous. his tires are still, they're still going nowadays. He could use them in this Grand Prix. That's how good Max was last year. It was actually phenomenal, and it made for a real snoozer. Not to say that Max wasn't impressive, but he definitely snoozed us out here because we never got the fight. We never got the fight between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, which I am hoping we get a way better one this year. That is really it for the main parts of the track. It's a big track, a lot of top speed, but big downforce. So expect very tricky conditions. Tire saving is kind of important here. It kind of makes for a boring race sometimes. It's very rare we get a banger here. Qualifying is usually awesome here, but actually the straight itself should provide a lot more overtaking. I hope we see a lot more of it this year. It kind of depends on certain things getting in the way. It's got to be that the drivers are going for it. That's the only time that this track can be actually very good. And weather, by the way, we should have a dry weekend. Maybe we get a slight tad bit of rain into FP1. But let's talk about my predictions. Okay, so I set this up a different way to last time. Last time I did my top 5 drivers. This time I want to talk about best teams, worst teams here. I'm not going to name every single team, but I'm going to name the 2 best teams that I think and the 2 worst teams here. Then I'm also going to say my top 5 predictions as I did last time and my best drive. That is what I'm going to go off of. So let's start off with what I think will be the best teams here. So to start out, obviously, I think Red Bull will be the best car here. Why do I think that? Their mechanical grip is insane. Their downforce is insane. But not only that, they're super fast in a straight line. And I think with that, they will be the strongest car here. It will be very hard to compete with them. I do think a couple other teams can maybe compete, but this is going off of just in general performance. So for the second team, I picked Mercedes. Mercedes was good here last year, and I actually think that they will be the biggest competition to Red Bull. Specifically, I think Lewis Hamilton will be super strong here. He's good on this track, and the car is very good with downforce. It's also a very draggy car, which this track will take away from that. You can actually run that drag, and the car can be in this type of weird state that it's going to be in. So I think that's going to help Lewis and the Mercedes boys. I think they're going to be our top 2 teams going into this. And I'm not necessarily going to pick the top 2 teams every time. I might pick like a spanner out of the works. And you know what? I'm actually going to give it a third team too. I think Alpine will be very strong here as well because their engine actually won't be as crazy reliable as they need it to be here. They don't need that whole horsepower more to actually overtake. They should be strong. They have a very aero-efficient car. Now, for the 2 worst teams, I'm going to put Haas. I think Haas is going to struggle here very badly. It's going to be a tough time for the team. I don't really think much is going to be made out of this race for them, unfortunately, but we'll have to see. I just have this bad feeling because tires are important here. I have a feeling that K-Mag might be like 2 laps down. This happened last year, actually. The Williams and the Haas were 2 laps down to Max. It was outrageous. So, yes, I think Haas is not going to be good here at all. And I do think that Alfa Romeo will struggle here yet again. They're a draggy car, but they're also like weirdly efficient. It's just a weird car. I know they've been like the 2 worst teams. I think this track is just going to accentuate that even more. They weren't good here last year. I don't expect them to be good here again. Let's talk about my top 5. Let's start from 5 to 1. At number 5, I'm actually going to put Lando Norris. I think the McLaren will be strong, but it will be difficult to judge because in COTA, they actually weren't as good on their tires as I thought they would have been. And I think that's going to be shown up here again. I think McLaren will finally have a weekend where they're not on the podium. I do think that Oscar's going to be 6th, just to let you know. He's not in my top 5. Now, the other 4 positions. Where am I going to go with this? So at number 4 for my drivers, I'm actually going to put Fernando Alonso. Yep, call me crazy. I think the Aston car will actually excel here. I don't know if it's podium worthy. They'll have a tough time going against the top teams, but I do think the car will be back. I think Fernando's going to be phenomenal. Last year he was phenomenal if it wasn't for the car breaking down. I think he's going to be good here. The upgrades prove that they actually can show some performance, and this track should actually show that off. At number 3, I'm going to put Checo. I think Checo will put himself on the podium. I'm very hopeful of this. We need a Checo podium, especially here in Mexico. Otherwise, the fans are going to kill Verstappen. At number 2, I'm actually going to put Verstappen. I'm going to go with the crazy spanner. I think it's time that we get a Lewis victory. I think something's going to go wrong in the pit stops, and that is where Lewis will capitalize. Otherwise, Max is winning this race. It has to be some type of mess up, but I'm saying Max at 2, Lewis at 1. Call me crazy. That is what I'm thinking. And then my best drive is going to go to Fernando Alonso because it's been a long time since this team's actually been in the top 5. I think Alonso will get them within the top 5 and the car will actually perform well here. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Give me your predictions going into this race and let me know how much you guys love these videos because it's double upload today, so I'll see you in both videos. Thank you guys so much for the support. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.